الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله ونشهد أن سيدنا ومولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله. قال الله تعالى في القرآن المجيد بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. وقال الله تعالى في آية آخر في سورة إبراهيم ادعوا إلى سبيل ربك بالحكمة والموعظة الحسنة وجادلهم بالتي هي أحسن. صدق الله العظيم وصدق رسوله النبي الكريم ونحن على ذلك من الشاهدين. Alhamdulillah, it's a blessing of Allah that we are gathered here for a few moments to come together to worship Him, to venerate His beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This, as many of us already are aware of and know, is a blessing upon us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose us to be here for these moments so that we, insha'Allah, can attain and receive the ni'am of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the blessings from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And these blessings may be esoteric or exoteric, or exoteric. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continues to favor us, whether we recognize it, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continues to shower us on a daily basis. And for those of us who are looking and open to the subtleness of this, can recognize it as soon as we wake up. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, through our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, reminds us that even as we wake up, we praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Alhamdulillah alladhi ahyana ba'da ma amatana wa ilayhi nushur. That we wake up, we're praising and venerating and thanking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for giving us the opportunity to wake up from this slumber, from a mini death. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala favors and continues throughout the day and even as we sleep. But if we are aware and willing to look at the subtleties and the nuances, we'll see an ocean of favors that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continues to shower upon us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us another favor, and that is one that we recognize very well. That is to be the ummati of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to be followers of our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to be amongst those too that have come much later than him and his physical presence being on this earth. And sometimes I used to think that a little sadness used to come into me when I would ponder this, and I would hope that how great would it have been to actually be in the presence of Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, amongst the companions. And this is something that I've always thought about. But I was fortunate enough to learn from my teacher about a beautiful tradition of our beloved Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, where he says, how blessed are my brothers. Brothers, of course included in this is sisters as well, because this is a very generic term that our beloved Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is using. And the Sahaba Ikram, because they yearned to learn and soak up every little bit from our beloved Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. So they asked him, are we not your brothers? Of course, they want to be classified in such a noble connection with the beloved Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. And our beloved Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, no, you are my companions. You are my ashab. My brothers will come much later, after I leave this physical earth, will come much later in time, but they will follow the teachings that Allah sent me with. And they will venerate and follow the teachings of the Quran and love me. SubhanAllah. Even if I or us haven't been given that, blessed that opportunity to be placed in the company of our beloved Prophet Muhammad ﷺ while he was on this earth, we have been endowed with this status of being brothers if we simply follow, love the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. And our blessed Prophet Muhammad ﷺ's message was simple. A Bedouin came to the beloved Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. The Sahaba Ikram would love when Bedouins came, because Bedouins were a type of people that were just frank. They said it like it was. Right? Bedouins, they didn't have, as fancy folk have, the decorum per se. They said what was in their heart. And the Sahaba Ikram loved this because there were nuances or questions that they would want to ask, but they felt, that out of respect, out of that connection to the beloved Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, they wouldn't ask. So the Bedouin comes to the beloved Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and he says, قَدْ كَثَرَتْ شَرَائِعَ الْإِسْلَامِ. That the shara'i, the teachings or the structure of Islam has multiplied significantly. So teach me something that is easy. Teach me something that is very simple that I can continue to do. And Allah's Messenger ﷺ said, to keep the tongue wet with the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. To keep the tongue wet with remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is an interesting thing. I mean, if we delve a little further into it, Allah's Messenger ﷺ is saying that this is sort of the entry point, right? When we think about it, when a car battery dies, what do? We take a car that is already started, plug the cables to that car, and attach to the battery. And once that current begins to flow from that battery to the one that needs the charged battery to the one that needs the charge, then once you turn the ignition, or in today's world, push the button, the car begins to start. What Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's messenger is teaching us, that if we can begin to engage with our tongue the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is that type of mortar that then can inspire our heart to continue to do the same. Our actions to fall in line with the teachings of our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Our engagement, our interactions, then continue to follow that too as well. And this is what our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam came to teach us. It wasn't simply to just gather here to pray, but Islam and the teachings of our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam were an embodiment of what Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said. What our Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent us to the Quran. It's not sufficient for us to just come and pray but our actions must align with the teachings of our beloved Prophet Muhammad. As our beloved Prophet Muhammad taught us and taught our Sahaba Ikram, he says what? He said, I've been sent to perfect good character. إنما بعثت لأتمم مكارم الأخلاق أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. That our beloved Prophet Muhammad was sent by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for what? To perfect good character. Not just character, but good character. And as our past pious muhaddithin, mufassirin have delved further into this hadith of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, they even have found from good character, one learns to be a servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How to be a good servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if we can be that, then we can recognize what our duties and responsibilities are for us and for our community, for those that live around us. So Allah's messenger was sent with that express purpose of teaching us, rearing us. Because if we really look at it, our nafs and our inner self is wild. It's like a wild stallion. I've never, came close to a wild stallion, but I've read about them. In Assateague, I've heard they have many of these stallions. But trying to tame a wild stallion takes an extreme first dedication and challenge. That wild stallion is like, no, you are not going to put that thing on my back. No, you are not going to mount me. And if we leave our nafs, and if we leave the inner self in that fashion of a wild stallion, then we will do whatever we will. Whatever we want. Whether it aligns with the teachings of our beloved Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, whether it aligns with what our Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent us in the Quran, we do not care. And if we audit ourselves, we don't even need to go as far as auditing the society. But if we audit ourselves, our heart, and really are truthful to that expressions that are taking place, we can recognize that that stallion exists within us. And as followers, or as those that profess to love the beloved Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, then it is incumbent upon me and us to work to embody the teachings and the characteristics of our beloved Prophet Muhammad. And this is what moved mountains. This alignment to the beloved Prophet Muhammad ﷺ's teachings was what moved mountains. Internal mountains and external mountains. Right? Mm-hmm. We see that even just if we look as close as to the Khulafa al-Rashidun, Umar radiallahu anhu. Umar radiallahu anhu, who is what? That man, that individual that our beloved Prophet Muhammad ﷺ says that لو كان نبيا من بعدي لكان عمر. That if there was to be a prophet that came after me, it would be Umar radiallahu anhu. This was the man that was on the way to what he thought was to finish the beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There he is with his sword, walking to what? To finally put an end to the quote-unquote hedonistic or whatever newfangled religion that are astaghfirullah al-a'yadu billah, that's not what I'm saying. But in his mind, this is what he thought the beloved Prophet Muhammad was teaching. So to take matters into his own hand, he sets out on this path to what? To try to extinguish the light that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent. But Allah has other plans. And that man who goes and sets out on that path to try to extinguish the light that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent onto this earth becomes what? The man that takes the helm of the ummah, the Amir al-Mu'mineen, after Abu Bakr as-Siddiq passed away. And in his life, Islam expanded to the point where it was knocking on the door of China. SubhanAllah. This is for us, for those that are willing to delve into the subtleties. For me, for us, this is a great, inspiring tale. That even if I've spent my life living in a way where I have turned away from accepting the favors of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can turn my heart at any moment. If we're willing and open to it. If we are willing and open to it. And sometimes, even if we're not willing and open to it. And this is where we as Muslims need to really take stock of ourselves and understand that in this day, time, and that we live in, we have little power that we can change so much on a broader scale. But we have the power to change ourselves. We have the power to change what we believe, how we function, how we interact with people. And believe me, this maybe what as we think insignificant thing moves mountains. Remember when the beloved Prophet Muhammad began propagating this message, how many people were there knocking the doors with him? Few. Just had Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, Ali radiallahu anhu, Zayd ibn Haritha radiallahu anhu, Khadija bint Khuwaylid radiallahu anhu. Just very few people. And his own family, his own tribesmen, his own community turned against him. Not just turned against him, but they created this nasty rhetoric about him. Anybody that came into Mecca was taught, don't listen to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But Allah's messenger continued aligning himself and those that followed him to the teachings of Allah. And what happened? A brief 13 years after our beloved Prophet Muhammad, a brief 10 years actually, 10 and change years after he left Mecca, his own hometown, expelled from it. He comes back in. And everyone there accepts him, accepts the teachings, and becomes that person who professes their faith to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The task ahead of us may be one that is uphill. But as the idiom goes, you don't eat an elephant all at once. What do? We take chunks, small chunks of the elephant, small chunks of the elephant. In today's world, we have the opportunity, and it is an opportunity, to on our connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because that Allah hasn't changed. Al-iyadu billah. Allah hasn't changed. Allah's sunnah hasn't changed. It is us who have moved further away from it. And if we bring ourselves back to it, then Allah's favor, which may be some that are subtle that we see, will begin to take form, or at least we'll begin to see them in a manifest way, an explicit way. And these are the months, inshallah, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I want to close with just reminding us that this is the month of Rajab. Rajab is the month of Allah. It's a sacred month, one of the 4 sacred months that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has taught us. This is the month of Rajab. 60 days from now, we have the month of Ramadan. And this month, our beloved Prophet Muhammad would fasten his belt. Begin to continue to stay. He always stood in Qiyam al-Layl, but he would sort of multiply his efforts exponentially. It is in this month that if we take this journey of connecting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then inshallah by Ramadan we'll see the blessings that come to us. We'll see the esoteric and exoteric blessings that come to us. And sort of just help us sort of drive that point home further. If I was to ever choose to run a marathon, I don't know if I would ever choose to do that, but if I was ever to choose to do that, I wouldn't show up the day of the marathon thinking that I'm going to run 26.1 miles. Right? Would anybody do that? Anybody in their right mind be like, all right, hey, there's a DC marathon happening this Sunday. I'm going to run 26.1 miles. No. Would take months of preparation. First, maybe even run 1 block. After 1 block, maybe a few blocks. Work my way to a 5K. Maybe 10K afterwards. But I would work to that 26.1 mile. Similarly, we have this blessed month of Ramadan that is quickly approaching. In these months of Rajab, Sha'ban, these are the months we prepare for it. We get our mental and internal self aligned with our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And if we are able to do that, then we can see and reap the benefits in the month of Ramadan. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the opportunity to align ourselves with the teachings of our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us and all Muslims that are seeking from Him, open the treasures unto us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala offer us the opportunity to change our hearts and to turn them towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور انفسنا ومن سيئات اعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونشهد ان لا اله الا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد ان سيدنا ومولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله اما بعد فقد قال الله تعالى في القران المجيد بعد اعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ان الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا ايها الذين امنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على جميع الانبياء والمرسلين وعلى سائر الصحابه والتابعين وعلى عبادك الصالحين اللهم ايد الاسلام والمسلمين اللهم انصر من نصر دين محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وجعلنا منهم اللهم اخذل من خذل دين محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم ولا تجعلنا منهم اللهم ارنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وارنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه اللهم ثبتنا على الايمان اللهم نور قلوبنا بنور الإيمان. اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات الأحياء والأموات، واغفر لنا ولإخواننا الذين سبقونا بالإيمان، ولا تجعل في قلوبنا غلا للذين آمنوا ربنا إنك رؤوف رحيم. عباد الله رحمكم الله، إن الله يأمركم بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. اذكروا الله يذكركم وادعوه يستجيب لكم، ولذكر الله تعالى أولى عز وجل وتم. أقم الصلاة.